Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special collab for Donkey Kong Country. Today, you're not just going to be looking at the development story of DKC, but you're also going to be seeing some cool glitches thanks to A+Start, host of Son of a Glitch. And not to mention, you're going to be getting a whole new look beyond the game's boundaries, thanks to Shesez, host of Boundary Break. What am I still doing this intro for? Come on, let's get going, starting with the development of Donkey Kong Country. Before the idea of Donkey Kong Country, and even before Rare was purchased by Nintendo, Tim and Chris Stamper, founders of Rare itself, were experimenting with a new piece of hardware that they had just invested in, the Silicon Graphics Challenge Workstation, capable of creating these dazzling 3D graphics. But still, at that time, they weren't even considering a DK-based platformer, or even a platformer in general. They were instead looking to make a boxing game. That is until the senior Nintendo staff paid them a visit, and they were super impressed with the demo they had made at the time. Nintendo staffer Genyo Takeda was then sent back to Japan in order to urge the then president of Nintendo, Hiroshi Yamauchi, to make a deal with Rare. After some talks, Nintendo purchased 49% of the company, which officially made Rare a second-party developer. Both Tim and Chris at the time were interested in creating some kind of game with Donkey Kong as the main character, and after expressing their interest to Nintendo, they were given the go-ahead to get started. With a team of 12 ready to go, more than any previous Rare project, they decided to make Donkey Kong Country. First things first, designing Donkey Kong. Miyamoto, despite being mostly uninvolved with the project, had very strong ideas as to what DK should look like. Rare was hoping to modernize the look and came up with this initial sketch for the concept art. Miyamoto then came back with his own sketch for the character based on Donkey Kong Jr. His sketch was definitely a lot more cutesy compared to Rare's protein powder-filled walking piece of steroid. In the end, it seemed Rare mostly got their way with the design, though he's a lot less muscular than what they had originally planned him to be, and there's a lot less hair too. This design became the standard look for basically every single game Donkey Kong appeared in from then on. For Diddy Kong, Rare attempted to make an updated version of Donkey Kong Jr., but the model that they came up with was too different from Jr.'s original look. So Nintendo told them to either make the character look more like Jr. or make him a new character. So they just decided it would be best to make a new character for this new universe and named him Dinky Kong. But apparently there was some legal trouble behind that name. I mean, after all, I'm sure every big company out there was thinking, oh man, I gotta trademark Dinky Kong for my next big shampoo product.
Dinky Kong removes dandruff and protects your scalp.
In any case, Rare settled on the name Diddy Kong for their sidekick character eventually, and I am very happy they did that. Now I bet some of you are wondering, now how on earth did Rare manage to pack all them graphics into this little game? Well, it's all thanks to a little something called pre-rendered graphics that I'd like to explain right now. They basically created the 3D models for the character's environment on the Silicon Graphics Workstation and rendered out each frame of the animation to then compress into a sprite for the SNES to use and display on screen. The team even took the trouble to make their own compression algorithm in order to fit as much graphical data into the game as physically possible. This was something completely cutting edge at the time and was also an expensive risk for the company, seeing as the workstation alone costed £80,000 each. But I mean, it turned out to be worthwhile in the end. It sold over 9 million copies globally. I mean, look at them graphics. How could you possibly keep the money in your wallet? Flying out, go be free.
Son of a glitch. So let's kick things off with our first glitch called the Invisible Barrel Glitch. This can be performed with both Donkey or Diddy and involves a steel keg which can be found in many stages of the game. Throwing the steel keg at a wall and then jumping on it makes either Kong ride it through the stage. What we're going to do here in Jungle Hijinks is ride it up until we're about to reach the midway barrel, and whilst holding the Y button, press B to pick up the steel keg. Now simply touch the midway barrel and then suddenly the steel keg is invisible. Diddy, you had one job. While it looks like Diddy is carrying nothing, what's actually happening is he's now carrying whatever sprite object spawns on screen next. When the barrel disappears, the game doesn't know which sprite value is now being held. The next sprite value that spawns will then become the item being held, and once that despawns, the next sprite will take its place. Sounds complicated, but actually not really. However, this can have some odd occurrences with some enemies, like this Neki who just hides hides in fear of this invisible barrel. Look at it. Throwing the barrel can also mess with enemies like these critters who fly into you at the speed of light. Yikes. Did I mention Diddy has psychic powers? Yeah, that's a power that he has. But this is just the beginning of the craziness with this glitch. It's possible to get the invisible barrel glitch with normal barrels too, and this means we can mess with the game in more inventive ways. To do this, get a regular barrel and throw it and quickly pick it up after it's been thrown, which is tricky but not impossible. It doesn't just work with touching the continue barrels either, it'll also work with the floating DK barrels. The things you can do with this glitch are pretty interesting, like mess with the cannon barrel so they fly in the air, and then you just keep going all the way to the end of the stage. Keep on rolling, alright guys? How about a cannon barrel that follows you through the stage? That's pretty handy to have. But it's also just as broken. Or you can create infinite fireballs that glide across the stage. It's coming right for us. Invisible barrels can be fun. But we're about to mess with the game even further using a glitch called the split up glitch. This is really easy to activate. Simply go into any stage you've already completed as either Donkey or Diddy and find a DK barrel. Pick it up and throw it, but before it hits the ground, press start and then select to return to the map screen. Now go into any stage that has a pit which kills you. You're actually in a weird state right now where the game thinks there are two Kongs in play, but really there's only one. This means that if you take damage from an enemy, well, you'll freeze in place. I'll just wait here. Help? This is why you need to go into a stage with pits, as if you take damage over a pit, you'll fall in, and the game will be able to take you back to the map screen. Now, when we enter a stage and break open a DK barrel, we'll have control of both Kongs at the same time. With Split Up Glitch active, head into a water stage and open up a DK barrel. You'll immediately see something isn't quite right. The other Kong won't swim around as normal, instead opting for a more on-foot approach. Well, whatever doesn't float your Kong, I guess. This can also lead to the collision of the stage being breached and you're able to just leave through the walls, but now you'll end up stuck at the bottom of the stage, so yeah, maybe don't do that. Another thing you can do with the Split Up Glitch is take animal buddies into other stages they wouldn't normally be in. To do this, you have to jump on Rambi and then have the other Kong fall into a pit to die. Now back on the map screen, let's head to a water stage, you know, for fun. And now we have Rambi underwater. As strange as that seems. This will only work in stages that have animal buddies in, except for some reason, Reptile Rumble allows you to have an animal buddy in too. Rambi in a water stage is weird, but for some reason, Rambi is the only character that'll appear in these stages besides On Guard. If you try to get Winky or Espresso in these stages, they change into Rambi. And I tried my hardest to get On Guard into a stage without water, but you need a pit that you can die in to be able to pull this off, and none of the water stages have such a thing, so no can do. Split Up Glitch can also lead to more anomalies in the game, like here in Oil Drum Alley, luring a barrel into a pit to take damage while the glitch is in effect can lead to some stuff like this. Oh no, it's happening again. Oh no. And eventually this. Oh hey Diddy, you look different. Did you do something with your face? Oh, and now you're a barrel. Of course, I mean, why not? I don't see anything strange here, do you? Nope. Not me. What? On Guard again? Get out of here. Speaking of On Guard, let's head to the stage Croctopus Chase, where you'll come across On Guard in a secret area just off to the left of the beaten path. Take On Guard all the way back through the stage, where you'll no doubt get hit a few times by these guys, but just jump back on Guard and carry on. We're trying to reach these cannon barrels that when you enter with On Guard, well, the glitchy effect should be immediately obvious. We have Diddy walking instead of swimming, like in the Split Up Glitch. I just love how casual he is. And now if we jump off On Guard and then get back on, we now control both Kongs at the same time, again. Pressing Y will now lock the screen in place, and jumping on Guard after this will give us a blue Diddy Kong, or maybe two if you're into that kind of thing, or maybe this kind of thing. This game is weird.
So with Donkey Kong Country and a lot of Super Nintendo games that I cover on my channel, one of the best ways to see something you've never seen before is by removing layers. See, with a lot of 2D games, and especially Super Nintendo games, there are graphics that are stacked one on top of the other, and depending on how far or close you want it to be decides what layer you put it on. So if we start peeling back the layers right here in the very first stage of Donkey Kong Country, you can see this background layer of a whole bunch of dense trees, but it doesn't even end there. If you remove that layer as well, we can see that there's one more layer left behind to give it some serious depth. The use of layers gets out of control in the snow levels though, because at one point, you will have a layer of unique snow for each layer of the game, with big detailed snowflakes in the foreground and teeny tiny white pixels all the way in the back, and as you can imagine, everything in between. Layers can also be used to mask objects. All those secrets that you see in Donkey Kong Country where you break a wall or you smash a ground and an object or a pathway opens up, there's a sprite body drawn over a pre-established layer. So no matter what, these holes exist at any given time, but until the player cracks it open, there's something masking it on the sprite layer. Speaking of Donkey Kong, it's a lot better to show you what I can do with 3D games. So with Donkey Kong 64, here's a little bit of a sample of what I can do here. On the main menu screen, you can see that Donkey Kong is on a platform that looks like the top of a barrel, and then he jumps in the air, which then warps him to a jungle setting. Well, if we zoom the camera out, not only can we see the entirety of the jungle setting, but that barrel area is actually just over to the right of DK. Also, there's a whole lot of fun that goes on when you just remain idle on the main screen. Like, for example, this Kremling here that likes to move his arms and pretend that it's DK's arms. And if we take the camera behind DK's back, you can see that the Kremling model is actually completely there, but 100% completely stationary, so it's not accidentally seen by the player. Also in DK's house, there's a lot of additional environment that you can't see. In fact, there's an object off in the distance that's completely culled out. Unfortunately, what it is, I can't really tell at this time, but you can see the shadow of the object resting against the environment. And of course, we gotta do a zoom out of DK Island, which is especially fun to look at here because we got K. Rool's ship facing off against DK Mountain.
So that's the collab, everyone. But we're not done yet. There's still 2 more of these major collab videos on both A+Start and Shesez's channels. Click here to reach the playlist and check them all out. And don't forget to sub to these 2 gentlemen. They do amazing work. All right, I'll see you over on their channels. Bye-bye.